My husband may have cheated on me with my dead best friend and had an affair, baby. Posted by you/Thrower Gaslit. I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute train wreck, and it only seems to be getting worse. My 33F best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband, 36M, he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or finally start paying child support. She says that Alice had told her who the father was when her daughter was born, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. This is what he told me later. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party as we just moved into our dream home, after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back until after 3 a.m. The party was winding down, my husband was passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which, at the time, I did find strange, as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for advice about him thinking someone raped him, but if he cheated, he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter, he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice actually did rape him and this was his trauma response. Honestly, Reddit, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she never came across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never even given more than a glance. What the hell should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone wanted to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided regarding the child, but in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. Relevant comments. Commenter. Women go decades without admitting they were raped because they fear not being believed. To be honest, men will often go twice as long, sometimes taking it to the grave, because they're almost always and automatically told it's not even possible for a man to be raped. I know you have to go on instinct, but his story makes sense with the text he sent his friend. He also hoped to never be around the woman he believes raped him again, which is why he made himself scarce afterward. If he's as smart as you say, he wouldn't have wanted you alone with Alice, ever, because she could have revealed an affair. He would have tried to distance your bond. Instead, he hid, because she couldn't really say she raped him. You said she wasn't a fan of his at all. She thought you could do better. So why wouldn't she spin it as him coming on to her? It's because she was the one in the wrong. Ops response. Thank you, you're absolutely right. With her level of disdain, if it had been an affair, she certainly would have told me, if only to separate us, especially on her deathbed. I was in the room with her, holding one of her hands. She obviously took this to her grave, and the only reason she would is if she raped him. Again, thank you. Update same day. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend raped him. Several people pointed out that, with Alice not liking my husband, if it were an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days, we talked about so much. If it had just been an affair, she would have told me. But if she raped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gathered my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me? It's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and screwed my husband, or she betrayed me and raped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave, you're right, and as of a few minutes ago, I've righted this wrong. I called my husband, I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss. But today, you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person who needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time, and probably a lot of therapy, to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend raped my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face, right in front of me. She tortured the man I love, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss for how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps and get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Second update 7 months later. I've received a lot of messages asking for an update, so I've decided to finally sit down and write one out. As you can imagine, after the total crap show that was thrust upon us, this update isn't likely to answer any of your questions, only present a few more. I want to start by telling you all that I love and trust my husband. My reaction to ask him for space to think, in retrospect, was wrong, but at the time, I didn't know what to think. It was a combination of losing my best friend again, and also the fear that I was losing my husband that sent me spiraling. Again, it was a mistake to ask him to leave, and I did rectify that in the end. Now, for the update. As mentioned in the original post, I did take a leave of absence from work, and we spent a long time just being together, talking, reaffirming our love for one another, and figuring out what to do next. We, of course, spoke with a lawyer, and my husband was very adamant about not having anything to do with the child but was willing to offer financial support as needed. So we agreed to do a DNA test immediately to prove paternity and then go from there. Didn't know you could buy tests on Amazon, but with only a few weeks of processing, it was the easiest path forward since Alexis lives hours away. To everyone's surprise, Alice's daughter is not my husband's. We ended up testing twice, both very, very definitive. The first test we performed ourselves, as mentioned, and another after Alexis refused to believe the first test and took my husband to court for child support. For a single second, this whole thing made me second guess if my husband was raped, that this could have been her way of forcing my husband to admit to an affair. But after talking with Alexis, I don't think that was the plan. Alexis says that Alice told her my husband was the father under strict confidence, demanding that she never, ever tell me or my husband. We were only ever to be told if Alexis died before Alice's daughter was old enough to take care of herself, so that she wouldn't end up in foster care. The only reason Alexis came to us then, instead of keeping that secret, is because Alice's life insurance wasn't being released yet, and she was out of options. She also felt I should know my husband and her daughter had had an affair. This all reaffirms in my mind that Alice did grape my husband, with the expectation of getting pregnant with his child. She obviously had other partners at the time, since one of them fathered her daughter, but no one knows who. It's clear to me that Alice believed it was my husband. I did suggest Alexis upload a sample to Ancestry, see if any matches pop up, but as Alice traveled all over for work, I don't know that anything will ever come of that. In truth, I've washed my hands of the situation. Alice did enough damage, and I don't particularly plan to be around for any more. My husband and I have gone through a lot of counseling and will likely continue for a while. This whole situation damaged us both, my husband more obviously, and I don't think we'll fully heal for a very long while. To answer a few questions. No, sadly there isn't a hidden diary or text to explain what the F was going on. My husband and I are not getting divorced. He understands why I reacted the way I did and has been strong when I was weak before. I've spent the past 7 months being strong while he was weak, so we're considering the whole thing even. We are still madly in love and plan to be together for a long time still, more on this. No, we will not be adopting Alice's child. If she had been my husband's, we would not have been adopting the child. Ultimately, I thank Reddit for setting me straight. There was a massive outpouring of support and corrective advice, To say I got a slap in the face would be a descriptive but apt way to put it. I needed it then, and I thank you for it. To say that you may have saved my marriage is an understatement. I do, however, have some good news. During my leave of absence, while my husband and I rediscovered what makes us love each other the most, I got pregnant. We're expecting our first baby, a girl, in a little over 3 months, and my husband and I are ecstatic. And no, we will not be naming her after my dead ex-best friend. Relevant comments. Commenter. I'm willing to bet she was jealous of your life and, for a minute, wanted to know what it felt like to be you. So she waited for your husband to be in a vulnerable position, intoxicated and passed out, and took her shot. She probably had random partners to either make herself feel less guilty about graping him or to try and get pregnant and really take a shot at him, making him believe her kid was his and maybe hoping he'd kick you out and move her in. She probably told her mom it was your husband's child to save face and avoid admitting she didn't actually know. She probably figured no DNA tests would be done, but even if it was, she wouldn't be around for the fallout. She truly was a crappy human being. I'm so happy for you both that it's not his child. It's bad enough she graped him, but to have to deal with a child on top of it would be horrible. Enjoy your little one, hopefully, you can all put this behind you now. Commenter 2. Honestly, I just think she wanted a child. She was sleeping with multiple people,